This is a Film Stories original podcast. We made this.
Hi, I'm Frank Spotnitz. I produce The X-Files, and you're listening to The X-Cast.
Welcome back to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, Sarah Blair, and today I'm joined by guest Brandon Shea-Mutala. How are you, Brandon?
Just give me a minute here. I'm just a little busy disposing of this body I have over my shoulder.
That's fine. I was, folding some underwear, so yeah. Today we're chatting about Season 4's 21st episode, Zero Sum, which originally aired on the 27th of April in 1997. What were you doing in 1997, Brandon?
I was watching this live.
Awesome. Me too. Right on my sofa with my recording going on the VHS, VCR. Do you remember those? It's been a while.
Yep, absolutely. I used to record the X-Cast as well. I've said this on my Star Trek podcasts, but so I'd have my VHS tapes, and I guess this was Sunday nights at the time, but I remember X-Files used to be Fridays. And, I'd sit there and record. You'd pause so that you didn't have the commercials when you played back, and you could fit 8 episodes on a tape, and I had my mom's typewriter, so the stickers that you'd put on the back of the VHS tapes, I'd type nice labels for them and everything with the typewriter. So
yes, I had a green notebook with a big X on the front. I would write down all the episode names each week.
Yep.
Have to go and look in the newspaper for them and the TV guide. Yeah.
I remember the first episode that I actually got the name out of the TV guide, because for the first, I didn't watch during season 1 and season 2. I didn't care, but it was season 3 when my friend told me, you can get the names of the episodes in the TV guide, and I remember that the very first one I saw was DPO, and I'm like, oh, they abbreviated it, and I was all upset.
Yeah, that's something I would have done too. I can't remember the very first one I looked up, but I think it was in season 3.
Yep.
So yeah, but good times. So this one is season 4, towards the end of the season. So we're winding down. Strong finish to season 4. And when a swarm of bees mysteriously kill a postal worker in an enclosed restroom, Assistant Director Skinner covers up the evidence. Mulder gets nosy as usual and tries to figure out what's going on. So that's what the episode is about.
Nosy Mulder.
I know, right? This episode was directed by Kim Manners and written by Howard Gordon and Frank Spotnitz. And what did you think? What are your overall thoughts about this episode? Do you like it? Not like it?
I love this episode. I have been a fan of this episode since its first airing, and it has always been a top 5 episode for me. We'll get into it, but first impressions of it, what really drew me to this episode was just the style of the first 15 minutes. We don't get Scully at all in this episode, and we don't get Mulder for 15 minutes. We have this, at the time he's still kind of a secondary character leading the show. And I wrote down in the notes here because I wasn't sure of the exact amount, but it's we get almost 7 minutes with absolutely no dialogue in this episode. So it was always something that really stood out as something different, and so it's always been an episode that I've loved to go back to, and it holds up. I haven't watched it in quite a long time, but it holds up. There is nothing wrong with this script at all, and I still love it.
Yeah, and it's funny that I actually wrote that down too. I was 10 minutes in, and we finally, have something happen. But we will get into that. Right now, let's talk about the IMDb ratings. So what would you rate this on a scale of 1 to 10?
Myself? Mm-hmm. The hands down, this is a 10. I have to give this a 10. This is...
Yeah?
My top 5 episodes are all 10s, and this is definitely one of them. So, yeah, hands down, it's a 10. You?
Awesome. I don't know that I would go quite so high, but, it's definitely a Skinner episode, so it's super high on my list. I would probably go with a 9. Mm-hmm. Yeah, solid 9. But yeah, so on IMDb it's rated 8.4 with 2,281 votes at the time of this recording. And, the episode before this, Small Potatoes, has a 9.1, and then Elegy, the episode that follows this one, is 8.0, like a solid 8. And then I was looking through the season, and everything's pretty much around an 8, give or take just a little bit. So, season 4 is really strong anyway, and to have this episode fall on the higher end of that makes it extra good, I think.
Yeah, you bet.
Do you want to undress this episode down to its tighty-whities and do the breakdown?
You betcha.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so for the teaser, we've got these two ladies who are postal workers, and they seem like they're good friends. I don't know if I peg them as like BFFs, but they seem like they're, pretty good friends. They're familiar with each other. And
see, I gotta interrupt you there, because that's one of the funny things that I find every time I watch this episode, because she says later on in the episode that they're best friends and they're planning their vacations and whatnot. And every time I watch this opening scene, I'm like, I get the impression that this woman is a bully, right?
Yes.
The one who wants to go for a smoke. I'm like, these people aren't friends. And that just makes this other character even more sad to me. I'm like, I could just picture this right now. Like, if we got the other person's point of view, like a discussion, she'd be like, I don't know, whatever her name is. I can't remember her name.
Misty and Joan, I think.
Misty. She's like, oh, that Misty.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I hate her so much. She's so, but you know what she's good for? She's good for covering me when I need to go for smoke breaks. She thinks we're going to Mexico together. I don't know. Like, this person needs a life.
Yeah,
so.
Right. And I love how she uses the term dork face. That was pretty hilarious. So I felt like this had a lot of really good suspense in this teaser. With, she sits down for her smoke and back when we actually had people smoking on television, it's been a while. Yes. I don't know about in Canada, but here it's a rare thing to find these days. But yeah, so she is sitting and smoking her cigarette in the toilet, and then like the bees start coming out of the walls, or it's hard to tell like where they're coming from.
The holes in the sink, the drain.
Yes. All of that. So I thought the suspense was really good in this.
Yeah, the reveal of, when she drops the smoke and sees all the bees is a really effective reveal, because you don't quite know what's going on. You don't know how many are there. And so it is kind of shocking to see how many bees have been in there. When she starts to get attacked by them and she's trying to get out of the bathroom, you don't know if she's going to make it out, and you don't really know where this episode's going to go. And, leading up to the end of this when she dies, this teaser is really interesting because it really plays with your preconceptions of what the X-Files is and how a teaser works for the X-Files. Because normally a teaser for the X-Files would end with her friend finding her corpse, and that's where the teaser would end and we get the song. And it goes a little bit farther than that. And it's like, okay, well, what's going on? Because this is kind of a little bit odd. And even on my first watch, I realized that Skinner was in Mulder's office, but even the reveal of the door opening and seeing Fox Mulder's nameplate on the desk is a very effective reveal. And it plays with your preconceptions, because you start the episode thinking it's going to be going one way, and when the teaser ends with seeing Skinner deleting files from Mulder's folders in his computer, you know that the episode's going to be going in a different direction that you're not expecting it to go. And that's, again, one of the reasons why I really love this episode, is because right from the beginning, it's playing with the format of the show in new fun ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do love the light on the nameplate illuminating, because you saw it, like, you can tell it's Mulder's office even without the light on that, but it was just like, hey, look at this. It was really effective. I really love the directing in this and the cinematography in this episode. I think it's really really effective to create the mood, and everything is just dark. And Skinner's got a line later on that we'll get to that he says, I'm getting used to the dark or something like that. And I think that really captured the feeling of this episode. So yeah, definitely an effective teaser. And what did you think? I know what I thought, but if you haven't listened to the X-Cast like at all, and this is your first episode, I apologize, but I am an unashamed Skinner, he's my favorite character. So I really love Skinner, and I really love that this is a Skinner-centric episode, and he's in it.
See, it's really fascinating because Skinner's not my favorite character. He's not even high up on the list of favorite characters for me. But I don't dislike him, right? He's just there, right? Because he's just their boss and he's just around. And so I think it's funny that we both can love this episode so much, but we're coming at it from kind of completely different angles, for appreciation for the episode.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that's the beauty of the X-Files, is there's lots of different things to love about it. And everybody brings their own thing to it, and that makes it really cool. So, yeah, it's really exciting. So I have Sexy Spy Skinner written in my notes, with the dark hat and all the dark clothes, and he's just, he's cleaning and doing all this stuff for, I looked at the clock like you did. It's 10 minutes that he's doing this and nothing else is happening. He's just going through this process of cleaning up. And, it takes him, are there any other episodes like this that you can think of? I can't.
No,
off the top of my head.
Except for that recent one, the Followers from season 11.
Yeah.
That's the only one that has extended periods with no dialogue that I could think of.
Yeah.
But there's not even many shows that have long sequences with no dialogue. One of the greatest sequences in television recent history was in season 1 of True Detective. I think it's episode 4 or 5. And there's this really long take at this. There's a party scene, and they're doing a I don't know if it's a bust. I don't remember. It's been a few years since I've seen it. But there's this really long take where this camera's going in and out of these houses and up and over a fence and things like this. And it's different because it's stylized. But this is just mundane stuff. And what's fascinating about it is because we know who this character is. This is the assistant director of the FBI, and he's on his hands and knees with a dustbuster vacuuming up cigarette butts on a bathroom floor. And it's it's just so fascinating to see what this guy is doing. And you're like, why is this happening? Why is this guy doing this? What is going on here? And every time it just captivates me. Just watching him sweep that floor with that brush, vacuuming it up. He's so meticulous. He's cleaning everything up. It's wow. Okay, this is crazy.
And it's riveting.
It is. I put captivating, right? It's captivating to see Skinner, assistant director, cleaning a bathroom.
Okay, and this right here is why he's my favorite character. Because I don't know that there are any other characters that I would be so interested in watching clean a floor.
I don't know, Frohickey. Maybe Frohickey.
Maybe Frohickey. Pendrell, possibly. I think I could, The thing about this scene and this whole sequence is you just want to know, what is he doing? Why is he doing this? What's going on? And that's what I love about Skinner, is because every episode I see, I want to know what's going on with him. I just want to know more about him. And I think that makes for a really good character. If you always want more. So
and one of the interesting shots in this is when he's cleaning there, and he cleans the mirror, and you get that look of his face, and you can clearly tell that he's not happy doing what he's doing, right? Which just adds a whole nother layer to the scene that you're watching. You can see he's looking at himself with disgust and disappointment.
Absolutely. And, when he's carrying the body through the morgue and everything, it's not easy. Dead weight is just... it's hard to carry. So no matter who you are. And like you said, he's just not happy with the whole situation. But you got to know, why is he doing this? It's got to be for a good reason. Otherwise, he's not just doing this for, funsies. Because this is really hard work to be that meticulous and to... he almost gets caught in the morgue and he's hiding, and then he's got to like carry her down these stairs and up and down and all these places. And
like that's the next scene, and that kind of gets it's kind of seems weird and elaborate that he's taking it to this like. I'd never seen a boiler like that running on fire, like, but it's like this thing that you constantly see in TV shows and movies. It's like, you know, it's like Nightmare on Elm Street, and it's why are there actually boilers that run like this? Like, is this actually a thing where some place is closed and this boiler is still running at full flames, like in the nights? Because that just seems to happen a little bit too often.
At 2:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that morgue scene, like when that attendant hears that sound and he like stops and he like just peeks around the corner and he's like, oh man, there's going to be a zombie.
Right. And that's another thing is, I should know this, but I don't know much about how morgues work. But I mean, I guess you would have to have an attendant if somebody dies in the middle of the night and they need to bring somebody in. So it would make sense for somebody to be there in the middle of the night. But
that job was so creepy. I could
not
do that
a job that I would want to have for sure.
And then watching this episode twice, like, so I watched it twice and to prepare for this podcast here, and I didn't catch it on the first watch. And like, so this isn't any comment on the woman, but this is a comment on Skinner and what he did. So when he's deleting the files off of Mulder's computer at the beginning, like, it gives the woman stats and whatnot, and like the stats that it gives is that she's 180 pounds. Right?
Yeah.
And like he's carrying her around
dead
for
weight.
a long period of time. Plus it's dead weight. And he's going upstairs, and like that last set of stairs up to the boiler there, like it's a really steep set of stairs that he's got to go up, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness. Like he's
strong.
He's a strong dude.
And then he goes to the pathologist's office and switches vials, and he signs his name as Mulder. And you're like, more what happening. And he goes outside the police station, and Detective Thomas comes up and calls him Mulder. And so he says, we finally get some dialogue. We finally get a little bit of information about what's going on. And Detective Thomas says that he is the one who emailed the photos. And I love how Skinner plays it so cool in this episode. Because if Detective Thomas had not said that and revealed that information, he would probably still be alive by the end of the episode. You know, he tells him that he sent these photos. So now Skinner knows that Mulder knows something. And he gets just as much information without giving anything away, which he's really sneaky about, and I love that about him.
He does it multiple times in the episode as well.
Yeah,
he is good at playing his cards close to his chest, that's for sure.
Right, yeah. And I love his ability to double speak, where he'll say stuff, he'll say one thing and mean something completely different, depending on the situation that he's in. Yeah. And, you know, we as the audience know that he means something else, but he's so careful with his words. And as a writer, I really, really, really appreciate that about Skinner. Because he's so careful and precise with his words and his questions and what he says and what he doesn't say and how he says it. And it's just great. And that's why I love him. And so at the end of the scene, we see the point of view from inside a car, and Skinner's leaving, and the detective is still in the parking lot, and there's a mystery man inside this car. And we have more questions. I love how this episode keeps making us ask more questions.
Yeah, and with that scene, too, with the later reveal, like, it's clear the way that camera turned, you were getting a point of view shot from the cigarette smoking man, right? And it's nice that they reveal that later, that he's involved in this case. You know, like, they pace how they reveal the plot elements to you, and that's another thing that makes this episode so fantastic.
Yeah.
Because at first you're just like, oh, it's just some other dude. Who's this mysterious guy looking in? But a couple scenes later, it changes again.
Yeah, it's really masterful. And then Skinner goes home, and he gets dressed. Just kidding. He totally takes off all his clothes, down to his tighty-whitey undies, and there are abs, and it is very nice. So... I was wondering about the lighting in the scene, why it has to be so dark, but that's just me. So, Mulder knocks on the door. No, he doesn't knock on the door.
No, he
Skinner,
doesn't.
no, he is taking out his trash with his clothes in it.
Yep.
And then Mulder just walks
right
up to the door.
Mulder's right there, yep.
And he's like, hey, I didn't know you were home. What's up? How's it going? It's 4 o'clock in the morning, but that's fine. No big deal. We're just hanging out. So what did you think about this scene? We get a lot of information here.
It's interesting because, again, with the way that it's revealed, we know that it's a good thing that he took his phone off the hook because Mulder has clearly been calling him for the past several hours. Mm-hmm. Right? So, because for Mulder to be there, he had to have been trying to reach Skinner. And it adds a whole other level because we get some reveal in this. This is when we find out that the cop's dead, right? And Mulder has copies of the paperwork. So all this stuff that he's done has kind of been for nothing, right? And you can see the pain and anguish in Skinner's face, right?
Yeah.
When Mulder's like, "Oh, I printed them off right here," and he's just like, "Oh shit." Right?
Yeah.
So, but we get this information, and then he's actually legitimately confused,
Right.
when Mulder tells him the guy's dead. He's like, what are you talking about? So yeah, it's wonderfully played because it's a slow reveal. Like it's such a mystery to the audience as to what Skinner's doing, but we're revealed this information like just piece by piece, slowly throughout the episode.
Yeah. And another important thing that we learn in this scene is that Scully is in the hospital, mm-hmm. and her cancer is advancing. Mm-hmm. So that's why she's not in this episode. There's
a couple seasons where she's not in an episode. And as a
mm-hmm.
young teenager watching a show, it was always weird not seeing one of the main characters. Like, was it 3 made sense because I knew she was having a baby at the time. But mm-hmm. I think it's in season 5 when we get 3 of a Kind, right? And she's not in that one. So we get an episode in that season. I think there's until Mulder leaves the show, the only time he's not in an episode is either Christmas Story or Emily, one of those, but we actually hear him on the phone, so he's not even completely absent. And in this episode, Scully's completely absent,
Right.
So I don't know, like I paid attention to those things growing up, and it's like it was always weird that no matter what, Duchovny was in it, but we always had a couple episodes where Scully was, or where Gillian Anderson wasn't in it. That always seemed weird to me.
I think Unusual Suspects was
maybe that's the one I was thinking of.
When she was filming pickups on the film, right?
Okay.
And maybe I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's Unusual Suspects was the first one, and 3 of a Kind was the one that was later. I got my episode titles wrong.
Yeah. We've got Skinner in the parking garage, and how did you feel about this scene where he's in the parking garage and then we've got the car pull up and he just puts his hands on the car and it stops? Like,
this is like the one misstep in this episode, I think. Like this is kind of weird. Like, why do they just rush up to him and like pretend to run him over? I don't know. Like, it's just weird. I don't know. That's the only thing I don't like in the episode is that.
Yeah. This scene in particular, I think, when viewed after season 11, changes a lot for me.
Okay.
It's like the dynamic between CSM and Skinner and all that is really fascinating when viewed through the lens of season 11. And, how Skinner, especially with Kitten, and how Skinner kind of, like, once we know more about him and his reasons and his backstory, this episode makes a lot more sense in a different way, I guess. I don't know if I'm making any sense at all, but
well, it adds another layer. I mean, there's lots of times when you find out stuff like this. Like, I mean, I haven't done a complete rewatch of the show in a long time, but I know that leading up to season 11, there was like Chris Carter's like, watch these episodes, and so I watched the 4 or 5 episodes that he recommended. I didn't watch them all, but I watched William and I watched Enemy, right? And so I watched those couple of ones leading into the episode, and I know that now, knowing what happens in season 11, like, it's going to affect my rewatch of Enemy, right? The next time I see that one here, and it adds another layer. So it's retcon, it's retroactive continuity, and it gives you another layer to appreciate the character. And while that may not have been intended at this time, you can see that, right?
I just really like the line where Skinner says, "You murdered him. You killed an officer of the law," and that's so telling for him and his character, and it reveals so much about him.
Yes.
Because, it really makes him upset that he feels like the law needs to be respected. And when people are going outside of that and you start killing law officers, that's a line for him. And I kept thinking about, his friend who was poisoned in Vietnam, essentially, and, that's probably adds to that because, he's like, these soldiers were essentially murdered by the government, and that makes him really mad for, a whole other reason. So I really liked that, and I noticed that he was very specific about his word choice. He says, I did everything you asked me to do, and I followed instructions. And, it wasn't like, if you ask somebody to do something, it sounds more like a favor, instead of something that you're forcing them to do.
Right.
So I thought that was a really important word choice.
Because he clearly owes him a debt, and we can tell at this point, right, that he owes him a debt for some reason, and we know that Smoky Man has something on him.
Yeah.
But we don't really know what it is at this time.
Yeah. And he said, and CSM says, a man digs a hole, he risks falling into it. So that's kind of like, you got yourself into this, now you have to, pay the consequences or whatever. You're in this now, and, Skinner's not dumb, and he's not a pushover. So it's like, we know something is definitely going on, like you said. And I think this is very effective to add to the mystery and the drama of this whole episode. And then in the following scene, Skinner wakes up on his couch, and Mulder's calling from the morgue to let him know the body's been stolen, number one, the blood sample has been stolen, and I love the detail that he gives about the blood sample, because I never would have figured, this is not something I would have thought of, but he says that she has
some weird type of hemoglobin.
It's a folate deficiency, so she's low on her folic acid.
Okay, that's
because of a particular type of anemia that she has. So they detect the folate levels in her blood. As a woman, folic acid is pretty easy to get low on. So I don't know how effective that is, but I mean, it makes sense, I guess, just for, the purposes of this. But then Skinner, and he also mentions that the gun was a 6 hour, and Skinner's like, that look on his face is just like, oh, mother, and he goes and looks in his drawer, and he knows it's his. And we finally figure out, he's doing this for Scully.
And I gotta say, one of the small things that I love about the Cigarette Smoky Man is, with today's technology of, bugs and wires, and even back then, I love that Cigarette Smoky Man still has, an old landline. It's not a rotary phone, but it's an old corded landline phone, right? It's not even a, Skinner's walking around on his cordless phone, but Cigarette Smoky Man's got his old landline.
Yep.
He's like, nope, I don't need any of that extra technology. Aliens can spy on my telephone calls.
So he chats with CSM, and, we find out finally, okay, now we know why he's doing this. And I feel like the tone changes here a little bit, don't you think?
Yes, because at this point of the episode, on a first watch, you think Skinner's doing bad stuff. And he is doing bad stuff. I'm not going to deny that. But you think you're just assuming that he's doing things for bad reasons, right? So you get a twist in the episode, and so again, it changes. So it's playing with your preconceptions the whole time. Right. Like I said with the teaser there.
So now he becomes, instead of reactive and being told what to do, he gets proactive. He goes back to the post office to interview the friend, and he checks out, he finds all the goo in the wall, and he, digs out with the hammer and finds the bee stuff and all this stuff. So he becomes he is back to assistant director. I'm going to handle this situation. I got to get on top of this.
But he's still... No, I don't agree that he's back to assistant director, because this isn't something that an assistant director would do.
Well, no, but just like his personality, I mean.
Yeah,
like,
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. He's back to the good guy. Yeah.
Man in charge, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But even still, at this point, he's getting down and dirty still, but now for a completely different reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Exactly. So he gets a sample from the bees in the wall, and they're all dead, even though this... She mentions it only happened yesterday, when she takes him in there. So I'm curious as to how they all died. If somebody came in there and poisoned them, or if they just died on their own, or... Because that was a lot of bees.
Well, there's a lot of bees in that guy's room, too, that we come across later, you know, so...
Maybe they just multiply really fast and die really, like their life cycle is really fast. I don't know.
They can't have a good life cycle that quick.
They're mutant bees, so
bees.
You know, carrying the smallpox virus. Spoiler alert.
Spoilers.
So he takes a sample to this forensic entomologist, and the guy mentions that Mulder asked him about the bees 6 months ago. So that was after Mulder went to Canada and all of that. After that, he goes back to the FBI and he looks through Mulder's X-Files, and you see the pictures of the fields and all that stuff. And he looks through Mulder's Rolodex. Do you remember Rolodexes? That made me so happy. So retro. So handy, too, for investigative purposes. Like now everybody keeps their numbers in their phone, so you have to like have a password or a fingerprint to like sneak into somebody's phone and get a number. It's so useful.
We should make an app. Let's do this. Let's make an app that's like a Rolodex for your phone, right? Yeah. So like to go through your numbers, it actually pops up on your screen, and then you have to flip through it with your finger. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe it might catch on. So yeah. He's looking for the number for Marita Covarrubias, and he's about to write it down, but Mulder shows up. And he's like, oh no, it's just writing you a note. No big deal. Just in here, it's going to write you a note. And then Mulder reveals that he has these photos from the bank security camera across the street in the parking lot.
Which leads to questionable, policies at the police station that they don't have any security footage.
I mean, but let's be real. Maybe he just couldn't access those or something. I don't know. Jurisdiction.
I mean, the cop was murdered, right? Like, so whatever, right? So
yeah.
Heaven forbid that somebody tries to investigate that, right?
Yeah, right. Maybe it was just bad angles. I don't know. Then Skinner calls Marita and says he has access to the bees, and she's very intrigued by this. And I love how Laurie Holden is so mysterious.
I cannot stand Marita Cortlan. I cannot stand the way that she talks when he's asking her, and he's like, what did he ask you about? And she's like, bees.
I love
and like
her
she
so
adds
much.
that sound before things. And it's
yes,
like, oh my
because
goodness, that is
she's
such
so
a weird
mysterious.
choice.
Yes.
I'm Marita.
I'm Marita
I've got
Covarrubias.
Information for you.
I'm looking for bees. And then we go back to the forensic entomologist, and he tries to turn a light on when he comes back into his room to check on the bees, to see if they've hatched yet. And the light's on, but...
What are you doing closing the door when it's dark like that, buddy? Come on.
I know.
Don't you watch scary movies?
Bees covering everything. All the windows, all the lights. Creep-tastic.
Yes.
And they swarm. And I just was like, why? Just please run away, man. Just get, like... And it shows the door with a bunch of bees on it, but you've already got a bunch of bees on you anyway. Just get out the door, man. Mm-hmm. But that was very horrific and scary, I thought.
Yeah, when I was a kid, we were somewhere in British Columbia, and there was like this dead tree stump there, and we were we were camping and whatnot. We were playing on this thing, and I remember clearly, like I was like 8 years old or whatever, and I remember clearly we were climbing it, and I ripped off a piece of the thing, and a whole bunch of bees came out of it, and I got stung like 5 or 6 times, and it was brutally painful, brutally painful at 5 or 6 bee stings, and like this here was, oh man, that's probably part of the reason why this episode, I love it so much, because it is like, this is a truly horrifying episode. You know, like we'll get to a scene later on, which I'm sure you're probably thinking of too. But like these bee attacks are truly horrifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's scary stuff. And I mean, I've never had that experience with bees. I think I've been stung by a bee once that I accidentally stepped on. Mm-hmm. But I've never had the swarming experience.
Yeah.
I hope I never do. But did you ever see My Girl when it came out? I remember seeing it in the theater and being like so scared of bees after that.
I saw it once, an extremely long time ago.
Yeah. The little boy, that's how he gets killed, is by the bees. He's allergic and gets attacked by bees in the woods. Macaulay Culkin. Oh. So then we have smallpox. And
yes,
Mulder
which is
says,
wonderful.
yeah, he's seen this before.
Wonderful callback to
Mulder,
Anasazi.
Yeah, we get Skinner and Mulder together, and this is a really good scene. I like this scene a lot. Mm-hmm. Especially, this is the scene where Mulder pulls a gun on him. He comes up, and they finally get on the same page. This is when they're just talking, and he's telling him about the bees, and I just have Skinner as such a good actor.
This is the scene in the morgue, right? With the dead bee guy. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. We've got him doing the double talk thing again, and he's trying to play his cards close.
Mm-hmm. Getting information from Mulder.
Yeah, get information from Mulder, yeah. I really like that part. And then he goes to interview Misty, who is Jane's best friend. Mm-hmm. Goes to the post office. Oh, yeah, this is where he interviews her.
Yeah, and this is a good scene, too, because he is very good at disarming her.
Oh, yeah.
As well. Like, she's clearly terrified.
Yeah.
Right? And he's very good at disarming her and getting her to talk to her. And you know, and this is a really great scene for writing. Because while I joked about it earlier at the start of the podcast, you know, the dialogue where she just goes off on that little tangent that says, we're best friends, we lined up our vacations together, and we were both going to lose weight so we could get new bathing suits. Mm-hmm. You know, like, that's just such a human line that somebody would say in that situation, because she's trying to come to terms with the fact that her best friend is dead.
Yeah.
You know, and they had all these plans together, and the writing of that scene is just, it's so wonderful, and I really, really, really love it.
Yeah, it's so effective. Mm-hmm. And like you said, like she is really scared at the beginning, and then she just kind of lets all this out. Mm-hmm. And you find out that she was scared by these other guys who came, who wanted a package. Capital, all capital letters, package. Mm-hmm. It was a package. There's so much emphasis throughout the rest of this episode on the package.
Well, I was just wowed by Skinner's ability to break down those walls and his investigative abilities, where she's like, I told them everything. And he looks at her and just says, everything? And then she just spills her guts.
I mean, having met Mitch Pileggi, I can tell you that, yes, I can understand why you would just want to confess everything. Because, you know, Skinner's that kind of guy. And then we have Mulder with the tech at the FBI doing the impossible, so annoying television trick where they enhance and get a beautiful, perfect photo of Skinner in the parking lot where the detective was murdered.
From the bank camera across the street.
From the bank camera across the street at 2 o'clock in the morning in a low-lit parking lot.
You got suspension of disbelief. These kinds of things, yes, they're problematic, but you know what? They don't ruin the episode for me. I go with the flow.
Agreed.
It is alien. Bees have polio, right? Like smallpox on them, right? Like this is we got other things that we got to suspend our disbelief on with this episode.
Yes. So then we have CSM and the first elder in the syndicate are having a meeting, and they're all... I love the way the syndicate talk to each other when they're together. They say all these words that don't mean anything. And it's like, they're all so mysterious. Like, they can't just talk. They can't just have a conversation. It has to be, like, this elaborate, like, carefully, dance thing that they do. It makes me laugh, especially in this. So they finally get around to getting to the point of this, which is that there's some kind of a trial going on. Yes,
right. And that leads forward to the movie, right? But also then we get the next scene, right? The next scene is the trial run, and it's like, oh, these people are bad.
In the next scene, we've got something really insidious going on. So they talk about the trial, and then they cut to the kids on the playground, and this is just really horrific.
First, we got to talk about that little bad actor.
Yeah.
Right? Where the one guy butts in front of him, and he's just like,
bless him.
Oh, shucks. He's just...
Yeah.
He, kicks the sand. He, shucks, puts his hands in his pockets. He's like,
yeah.
I'm so sad. He took my turn on the monkey bars.
Yeah. Kids, man. So then, that's not the worst thing he's going to experience that day.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Poor little dude. So the bees come and everybody starts getting stung. And I gotta say, as a teacher, it's really scary. Because we actually had bees on our playground. And I hadn't seen this episode in a while. And I'm really glad I hadn't. Because that would have really freaked me out. Because I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, we had bees on our playground earlier in the year when school started, and a couple of the kids got stung, which is really, really scary. They were yellow jackets. But when it's especially when you got little kids. But then the teacher, I think his name was David, right? David, and he falls down and loses his glasses, and it's like My Girl all over again. And then the teacher, helps him and gets him out of the way, but then she gets swarmed. And
yeah, and that's the scene, that shot. I remember that from the teaser from the week before. I remember, you'd wait until the next week on the X-Files and whatnot, and that was a shot from the teaser and whatnot.
Yeah.
Right? But that camera pulling up and her just
man.
Twisting on the ground.
And it just goes on forever.
Oh, that is
just
so
make it stop.
Horrifying, that scene. That one, that puts it over the top of the episode, and it brings it to a new level. Because this is, the other ones have been they haven't really shown a lot, and this one just stays with it for a really long period of time. It's the third attack that we've seen, and it's bad.
Yeah,
so,
really bad.
Oh, I love it. It's so great. And those kids, they go inside. They got you see them bites on their face and whatnot. And then we cut to commercial and come back, and that kid's dead.
Poor David didn't make it.
That one, the Aw Shucks kid is dead, and it's okay, because at some point you think they look okay because they're in the school and they're just looking fine, and it's okay, well, they killed the teacher, but at least they didn't kill the kids, and then it's oh crap, they killed the kids.
Yeah. So and the mom's crying, and they put the sheet over his face, and
oh my goodness, yes,
so terrible. And Skinner is sitting there telling the doctor, he's this is smallpox. You need to treat him for smallpox. These kids are going to die. And the doctor's all well, blurgity blurg, I'm the doctor. I know what I'm talking about, and that doesn't exist anymore. Screw you. I'm not going to help these kids and try anything.
Oh, boy, yeah. And then when he said that line, he's we don't vaccinate kids for things that don't exist anymore. I'm flash forward to 2019.
Right.
Oh, boy, heaven forbid. The good old days when vaccines were, oh, boy.
When diseases were eradicated.
Yeah, back in the day when things like measles were eradicated.
Oh, man.
The good old
Let's
days.
not start on that track. That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. Oh, boy.
And we've got Marita up here at the hospital, And she said she followed the packages. She found out where they were headed, and this is where they were headed, is this little podunk town somewhere. And Skinner reveals that it was bees in the packages.
Bees.
And Marita's like, if you know what's happening, you have to go forward. You have to tell about this information. And she's so serious about it. And you're like, okay. And after
I watched
that,
this episode, and I really miss X.
Yes.
Rita Covarrubias was... I miss X. X was my favorite character on the show. You know,
really?
And I think that we could have got some great stuff with him further on, and especially in an episode like this. So
yeah, definitely. He was awesome. I did appreciate his character. This is where Mulder gets the gun on Skinner.
Mm-hmm, yes.
In this scene. So, that's like not the first or the last time Mulder pulls a gun on Skinner, right? So
yes. Remember Colony? Oh no, that was Scully in Colony. That was Scully.
Yeah.
But then in Endgame, then it start there. Yes.
Yes, and I really, 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 really love this scene because he's like, Skinner like reveals everything to Mulder. Like he wants to tell him the truth. This whole time he wants to tell him the truth, but he's scared because he doesn't. He knows that he can't help Scully if he's in jail. Mm-hmm. Essentially, is what it boils down to.
Okay, so this is where I have the question that I need help answering.
Okay,
because,
tell me.
So if I haven't rewatched any of season 4 in a long time. When he says, I gave you advice and I didn't follow it, the only thing that I could remember would have been like back in one breath. Like what is he talking about there? Because I haven't rewatched the whole 4 seasons.
He's talking,
something else?
I can't remember the exact scene or episode, but it's when Mulder tries to find, like, he thinks that he's going to be able to find the cure for Scully, and he wants to make a deal with CSM.
Okay. So,
for
like,
Scully's
just a few
cure.
Episodes previous, right? Because
Skinner's like, do not do this. Like, stay away from CSM. Don't make this deal with him. Like, you can't, I can't remember the exact episode.
Okay.
But that's what he's talking about is, I didn't follow my own advice. Is like, he essentially was like, don't make a deal with the devil. We'll find another way to get Scully's cure. And this is his other way.
Okay.
He's not following his own advice. He did exactly what he told Mulder not to do.
Makes
and
sense,
now he's regretting it. But yeah, and I really love how he says, I have lied to you. I won't make excuses for those lies, but there's a reason that I did what I did, one that I think you're in a unique position to understand. And that's when he says, I advised you against a certain course of action concerning Agent Scully, and I didn't follow my own advice. Mm-hmm. The whole thing, I just want to watch that on repeat. Mm-hmm. So good. I did actually rewind it and watch it a few times.
But it's great because he gets Mulder to listen to him too. Mulder's ready to shoot him, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely. I don't think he really would have, but I mean, he gets him to listen. So he's good at disarming people, and he's good at talking to them and getting them to listen to him.
And one of my pet peeves about the show is how Mulder and Scully are always like, should we trust Skinner? Should we not trust Skinner? Should we trust him? Should we not trust him? We don't trust him. Why should we trust him? He's only proven that he's on our side 10,000 times already. But in this episode, it actually makes sense. Mm-hmm. And it's all earned. And I really appreciate that about it. Because it's like, yeah, and in this moment, it makes sense for him to be leery of what Skinner's doing. Because everything up to this point has told him that Skinner's covering up, that he's working for CSM, that he's, doing all this stuff. And he doesn't know what's going on. Mm-hmm. But at least he's willing to listen. As soon as Skinner says that about Scully, that's when he is willing to start being like, okay, so what's going on? That's Skinner's way of telling him, I'm in this for Scully. Right. And since Mulder's in it for Scully, they can work together on it. And they can trust each other for now. Following that, he takes his gun to the ballistics testing, and they do find that it's a match. But Mulder lies for Skinner. And he says that they found it in the sewer or something. The drain.
Which is problematic. Like, so this scene is a little problematic, okay? So when he gives the type of gun, now I don't know guns, okay? I'm a Canadian here. I don't know guns that much, right? But I'm guessing the way that he says it's X type of gun, whatever it is, I'm guessing that this is a common type gun for the FBI, because then he starts asking about FBI stuff. Okay, so this is clearly a government-issued gun. At some point, Skinner's going to have to say, I don't have a gun and I need another one. Like, at some point, they're going to ask some questions about where his gun went, and he's going to be like, I don't know, right? But, like, at some point, this is going to come up again.
Well, since he knows that the numbers have been filed off and they're not going to find it and match it, and his drawer has been tampered with, he can say that it was stolen now, I think, reasonably.
Okay, I could buy that. You just fixed it for me.
You're welcome. I think he can reasonably report it stolen at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting because I want to know who filed the numbers off and when. I think that's really important to the story.
Well, I think it would have been Cigarette Smoking Man's dude there, right? Who killed them. And
but on
stole the
whose
gun.
orders?
Cigarette Smoking Man's. I don't know. That's how I interpret the episode. Is that CSM said, okay, we need to have it on him, but we want him to stay under their thumb, but we don't want him to go to jail. Yeah,
because they need him.
Right? So when we take this gun and file off the numbers and whatnot, because Skinner may hand his gun in, and because Skinner's a good man. Yeah. So we have to file the number off the gun, then we can't prove it, because if he does hand it in, right, I think it's like a safety, not a safety measure, but like a protective measure against Skinner himself. So
that makes sense.
Yeah,
I like that. Okay, in the last scene, we've got Skinner and CSM at CSM's house, and that's the line I was talking about before, where he says, "I'm starting to get used to the dark." I really like that line because it means so much. Like he's starting to, know what he has to do and play dirty to, fit into this whole scheme of things with CSM and to try to save Scully and all that. He knows that he's going to have to cross some lines that he might not want to cross.
Yeah.
And that makes him really frustrated, I think. Because he's been fighting against these people since Vietnam, since he was 18 years old. And he saw what they did to his friends and what happened there. So CSM, I think, kind of represents all of that for him. And he doesn't want to become one of those people. And he might have to in order to bring them down. Mm-hmm. And I really, really liked the moment where Cigarette Smoking Man's like, well, if you're going to shoot me, because otherwise I'm going to have, I need to answer my phone. Like, he's so cavalier and just such a dick. And
then when he does shoot, and then he answers the phone, and his voice hitches when he answers the phone. Like Skinner.
You can tell he really, really, really freaked him out. Just like my favorite line in the whole show is back, when he's like, this is where you pucker up and kiss my ass. Like he gets the drop on him both times and more. And, like I love how long that pause is after he fires the gun. Mm-hmm. And it's not just one shot, it's a lot. So, it's more than one. And he's just like getting his frustration out, you realize. And then when it cuts back to him and he's still standing there, just like completely frozen. It's such a great moment. Mm-hmm. And then when Cigarette Smoking Man finally does answer the phone, it's been ringing this whole time. And I guess it's probably good that the lighting in this scene was darker, because I wonder if he peed his pants. I probably would have.
Yes. No voicemail, no answering machine, not on that phone.
Nope.
Just kept ringing.
Exactly. And it's Marita calling. Is she a double agent? What's going on with her?
I don't know.
Merida. Caribius. So, Cigarette Smoking Man says, tell him what he wants to hear. So, yeah. He's talking about Mulder, right? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that was a satisfying ending?
For this and leading up into the movie, I would say yes. Like, because we get the bees again in the movie. We don't get the bees a lot in the series, but we get them a couple of times, and it's really interesting when they do crop up, because it does seem like something that some crazy organization would use, like a way for like some type of biological warfare with like insects or something like that. Like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist myself, but it is interesting in this type of world that Chris Carter's created to see these bees as a way to transmit, smallpox, which calls back to season 2's Anasazi. Like it's really well built, and it's a very world building episode. And that's one of the things, like over on Trek FM we have this term that we like to use, headcanon. And the X-Files, it's not a complete picture. Like, the whole show is not a complete picture. There's all these little threads that kind of stick out everywhere, and it's like you need to use your own headcanon to come up with what you think a lot of this stuff means. And so those are the kind of things that I like with the X-Files. And it's like, well, because we never really get a satisfactory answer for the bees. They don't really answer that in the run of the show.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, okay, so then what does it mean to you? And I don't know, I like it. I think it's really cool. And again, I like the episode because it's so horrifying. I love the episode because it's playing with your preconceptions the whole time. And I love the episode because the first 15 minutes are unprecedented in the show, and we don't really see again. So this is a standout, and this is gladly in my top 5. Like, I love this episode a lot. I think it's underrated. I do not think people talk about this episode enough, and I don't know why. I think people skip over this episode. I don't see people talking about it on the XCast basement very often. It doesn't come up in polls, and it's a real shame that this episode seems to get forgotten about, because I think it's a real powerful episode.
Well, it's a slow burn, I think, and it's quiet and it's unassuming, because that's just the whole tone of it, and it works so great. Yeah. So, let's find out, speaking of the basement, let's find out what our basement group had to say about all this. So we posted for comments in the the X-Files Basement X-Cast podcast fan group. And we had a few comments. Chandru says, fun episode focusing on Skinner. Lots of good tension, and that bee scene at the school is one of the most chilling sequences the show would ever do. That said, I felt like the episode wrapped up too neatly with Skinner and Mulder's confrontation being particularly bland. Usually they are electric together, but not here. Do you agree with that? I think we talked about that a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I like the sequence. I think we justified it with Skinner being able to, get people's defenses down. It's a talent that he's got.
Michael says, I adore this episode. It is the first of a great batch of episodes that finish, each focusing on a different character, what is probably my favorite season of the series. I consider Zero Sum to be the strongest Skinner episode ever produced. I love the weird pacing of the first act. Mitch is fantastic in this, and the Vancouver production machine is in full swing. Terrific episode. Mm-hmm. Yes. Adam says, the best Skinner episode and a good one, and actually pretty important to the mythology, as it sets up the bees as a delivery system, and Merida works for the syndicate. It's a great moment when you kind of believe he might actually have shot CSM. Yes. Mitch gets to shine. Mm-hmm. Double yes. Billy is my Skinner buddy. We both love Skinner so much. Great episode. What more can you ask for? A hot buff guy and whitey tighties? Woohoo! Yes. Heart, eyes, grand smiley. And our fearless leader, Tony Black, says, I love this one. Huge favorite of mine. The best Skinner showcase the series ever did, and manages to deepen the mythology through the moral choices he is forced into making, which is skillfully done. A highlight of the very already strong season 4. Yes. Should I have done that in a British accent? No, I would butcher it. Sorry. I can't sound like Tony. Tony Black. Isabelle.
Hello, I'm Tony Block. Was that good?
Close. Yes, great episode. We really appreciate you joining us. Where can we find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Brandon Shea-Mutala. You can find me on Trek FM with a couple of shows. I do Warp 5 with my buddy Patrick. And I think it's all done by now, depending on when this episode comes out. But I was doing Melodic Treks, which is a podcast about music. If it's not producing new episodes anymore, because I'm really trying to scale it back, then there's definitely some wonderful interviews in the back feed. And then Zach Moore, friend of the show, him and I are doing a podcast called Franchise Fatigue over on the United Federation of Podcasts podcast network, and on that show we go through movies one at a time in a franchise, and we cover them all, and we've done Mission Impossible, we've done Godfather, we've done Pet Sematary, we've done Toy Story, and we're probably, depending on when this comes out, we're probably into Jaws or Terminator by now. That's our first year, so it's a new project that we've done.
Awesome.
And the last one that I have is with some friends called Good Evening, an Alfred Hitchcock podcast, and once a month we do Alfred Hitchcock movies. So that's on Fandom Podcast Network, as well as its own independent feed.
Love Alfred Hitchcock. Check that one out, guys. And I'm Sarah Blair. You can find me on Twitter. That's where I'm the most active. Sarah, SarahBlair. And I'm in the basement. And yeah, hanging out, talking X-Files, as always. My favorite show. Yeah, it's pretty great that something I really loved 25 years ago is actually finally paying off. And I get to do this amazing podcast with all these cool people like you. So, good times.
I got a good outlook. You know how they normally say the truth is out there. We should finish it like this. And as always, vaccinate your children.
Against smallpox.
The Xcast, an X-Files podcast, is produced and hosted by Tony Black, alongside a dedicated team of podcasters and X-Files fans. You can find the show on Twitter at the X_cast, on Facebook by typing in the Xcast, or inside our group, the X-Files Basement, an Xcast podcast fan group, plus on Instagram by typing in the XFcast. If you're a fan of the show, why not support us on Patreon? Exclusive bonus episodes, early access to new episodes, plus become part of our Xcast community in the Patreon department. To see our monthly subscription options, just head to patreon.com/the Xcast. That's patreon.com/the Xcast. We'd love to see you join our Patreon community. We're also part of the We Made This podcast network at We Made This Pod on Twitter and We Made This on Facebook. You can find a range of shows on TV, film, music and popular culture in general on the network. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.